In Monday's video, I talked about the feeling of being discarded after losing your job. But I received a very interesting comment from a viewer, and he basically went on, and I'll put the comment up on screen. He said basically that I wasn't garbage, and that actually losing my job was probably a good thing because it gave me the opportunity to do something that perhaps, had I been working, I would not have been able to do. And I thought that was a very interesting comment because I actually lost a job once before, about 12 years ago. It was a job prior to my former employer, my former job. And basically the company was bought out by another company and they made 500 people redundant. And I was one of those. And in hindsight, well, at the time, firstly, it was like devastating as always. But of course, I was 12 years younger. So I wasn't as concerned as I am today. And particularly also 5 years ago, there weren't the advancements with AI and the likes that we have today. Now, luckily, I was able to get the job where I worked formerly. And in hindsight, it was actually the best thing that could have ever have happened. Absolutely the best thing that could have happened. Because the new job, my former job, was a startup company, and it came with all the benefits that come with a startup company. So I was really fortunate, but that would never have happened had I have not lost the job before. So going back to the viewer's comments, that sometimes things happen, I don't want to say for a reason. I don't want to go into the whole fate and destiny and all that. But sometimes things do happen for a reason. But when they happen, they're not always clear. In fact, they're very rarely clear, especially if you just lost your job and you're feeling completely deflated and concerned, as you would be, about the prospects moving forward. But of course, with hindsight, we get to see that sometimes it is a good thing. Not always, but sometimes it is a good thing. And I can only talk from my own personal experience that over the years, it has been a good thing for me. You know, for example, coming to America. I've been here now coming up to 30 years. And I don't think I would have been able to build the life that I have built here back in the UK. Because I don't think basically the opportunities are the same. I'm not knocking the UK, I love it. I still call it home. I still go back 2 or 3 times a year. But I feel there's more opportunity here in America than there is in the UK, or pretty much really in the rest of the world. I think, America is called the land of opportunity, and it's called that for a reason. And the reason and how I came to be in America was one of those weird things in life. Walking down Madison Avenue with a mate of mine, we were visiting New York for 5 days, and we're heading back to the hotel, and it was late at night, and my mate goes, "Do you want to go to this bar for a nightcap before we go back to the hotel?" Simple yes or no decision. Arguably, it was the biggest decision in my life. I said, "Okay, yeah, let's go in." And that's when I met my ex-wife. Had I said no, we would have just carried on to the hotel. I wouldn't have met her, and I wouldn't be here talking to you now. So things do happen for a reason sometimes. I'm not a great believer in fate, and I'm not a great believer in luck, although there is luck in life, and I believe there is fate in life. But particularly with luck, you have to help create that luck for yourself. So if something bad happens, if you do lose your job, I know it's really hard to kind of like get your head around it with all the questions, particularly in America, where you've got the whole question of healthcare. If you lose your job in the UK, you're not concerned about healthcare. In fact, pretty much any other country in the world, I think there's only a handful of countries in the world that don't have socialized medicine. But the important thing is to, if you are working, is make sure you're prepared for any eventuality, including losing your job. I heard a report somewhere, the average American has maybe $5,000 in their bank account. And I get it, particularly if you're on minimum wage or an average wage even. I'm not sure what the average wage is in America. It used to be like $35,000, $40,000, which by today's standard isn't a lot of money when you consider the cost of living and everything else you've got to pay for. But try and save as much as you can, so that if you ever do come into a position where you perhaps do lose your job, at least you have something to fall back onto. Also, if you are being pushed out, make sure that you get advice before you accept any severance or make any decision. Even if it's talking to a lawyer, if it costs you $100, probably a good $100 to spend. If you haven't got $100, honestly, AI is pretty good at giving you legal advice. I wouldn't go to court with it, but as a as something, it's better than nothing, right? But know your rights, because if you lose your job under certain conditions, and even I'm not entirely sure what they are. I think it's something on the lines of if you voluntarily leave a company, I'm not sure whether you qualify for unemployment insurance, which is crazy because it's called unemployment insurance for a reason, because you've paid into that so you can get unemployment should you lose your job. You need to know your legal rights before you make any decision. I can't impress on that enough. I didn't do it. I made a mistake of not getting advice before signing on the paper. But that's what happens when you're in shock. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't prepared for it. So be prepared ahead of time, particularly if you think something down the road is coming, particularly if you feel that perhaps the relationship with your boss has changed. Maybe they're not quite as friendly as they were with you, or maybe you've been left out of things which you weren't in the past. Be prepared, because when the day or time comes, if it comes, you want to be in a solid position, not like me. I was flailing my arms going, oh no, now what, Sometimes things happen for a reason, and it isn't always clear at the time, and of course it won't apply to everybody, but be prepared. Much better to be in that position. I'm going to leave a link to Monday's video down below if you missed it, so you can watch that. And please don't forget to like and subscribe if you found value from this video. It's a glorious day here in Pennsylvania, and I'm going to go off and enjoy the sun for the rest of the day. So I'll talk to you the next time. Thank you for watching. Cheers.